Hello, everybody, and welcome to the American Scouser podcast. It's a special Thursday podcast that we are beginning, and we have new people except me. You guys are kind of stuck with me on the show, but we had a bunch of like new segments and stuff like that. And I wish we had a special game to talk about starting this, but unfortunately not. So we'll get to the game, the segments, and everything. But I am your host, Timuchin, as always. And with me today, we do have, well, a familiar face in Jamie, the Irish Jamie. What's happening, man?
Yeah, moving on.
Yeah, I know, not so good. And also with us, making his first appearance on one of our podcasts, one of our regular contributors as a writer on our website. Scott is with us. Scott, what's up, man?
Hey, how you guys doing? I'm happy to be here today.
Oh man, I wish we were doing better. Like I say, I really was hoping to start this Thursday edition by talking about like a better game, but unfortunately, not. So we'll start with the game. Obviously, we'll talk about the lineup and stuff like that, and then we'll move on. There are a couple of other topics. Like I say, we do have a few segments to hop in there in terms of like fantasy. We have actually like contributions from like some other podcasts and like Liverpool groups and stuff. So they'll bring up some talking points. But unfortunately, I hate to do it. Scott even said once the game ended in our Discord channel, Scott was like, "Do you really want to talk about this game?" And the answer was no, but what can you do? We have to do this. So let's start with the lineup first. I know there's a lot of talk, and we'll kind of like get to that as well in terms of, these cups and how much the club values them or how much Klopp values them and all that kind of stuff. But you look at this lineup, Jamie, and it says we're going out for it. Did you take that as we really want this cup, or more like getting these boys ready to play against Brentford on the weekend?
I mean, yeah, a bit of both. I mean, the both can be true, right? But yeah, I can put my pen and paper down. We're not trivia. All right. I'll put it down. Yeah, you like the notepad, by the way? But yeah, no, the lineup looked great, right? I mean, everybody was on board straight away. Maybe the midfield had a few people questioning, the Milner and Henderson together is always a bit difficult, but yeah, I mean, definitely enough to get the job done when the lineup came out. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think when the lineup first came out, I thought it was probably the strongest lineup we can throw out there. We will talk about the Milner thing. I initially did not have a problem with Milner, just to be able to control the midfield. But Scott, what was your take having seen the lineup?
I thought that it was strong. I thought that we obviously put out our front foot, just try to get the game started as quick as possible, just from the starting 11. It goes to show the fact that, this was Trent's first League Cup game in 5 years. This was Allison's first ever League Cup game for us. So the fact that we're putting out quality players to join in and be part of this cup run is important. The midfield, I have my reservations with that three as well. I think that maybe we could benefit from the start with an Oxlade-Chamberlain or a Jones, but it's Klopp's decision, and we back it on paper. Like you said, it's enough to win.
So let me ask you this though, for the midfield. I mean, when you see that lineup come out, did that midfield like irk you initially, or obviously as the game changed and the way the game was played, did that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, like initially, I'm fine. I'm fine with Milner. I hear a lot of people, and he is getting on in years. Don't get me wrong. Nobody doubts his dedication, his commitment, blah blah blah, his professionalism. But yeah, he's looked leggy. I mean, there's no debating that. But yeah, I mean, initially there was no red flags. Do you know what I mean? Like I that's in the back of my head. Yeah, absolutely. But there's no red flags like, oh Jesus, no, God, no.
I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? So 100%. 100%. you're gonna look at that starting 11 and you say, you got quality players all around the pitch. So.
Yep. But to be fair, for the first 15 minutes, it kind of looked like that anyway. Henderson was chasing the ball down. Like, we had some early chances.
Yeah.
I know I'm jumping the gun. We're talking about the lineup. I'm talking about the game now, but
Yeah. No. I mean, like I say, I think the game kind of changes and becomes a total different game
right.
once
And
the red card happens. And, like a
yeah,
vintage Saka moments, he makes a tackle. A great ball by Robertson, by the way. Jota kind of initially called for it. He saw him afterwards. Great ball. The red card comes. And I thought, obviously, that was going to change the game altogether. And it did. And we kind of came to this point where we do have an issue sometimes where the teams almost would it have been better, Scott, if it kept going 11v11? Because it sure felt like it.
It's interesting because, I guess like Arsenal's strengths are their own weaknesses, right? So to their credit, they have great build-up play going forward, but that leaves gaps. Well, if they decide they're just not going to attack, well, then they can focus on what they're bad at, which is, being compact in the back. So, I think that we should have done more, but I will say there was credit on their side in the fact that they say, hey, we're 10 men down, we may as well throw a back three in, have our wing backs tuck all the way back, and leave no space for anything. And unfortunately, we really didn't have a key past that.
And that's the thing. I think that was Darren says he thought Salah and Mane were invisible tonight. I thought, yeah, we should have taken the tournament a lot more seriously and had them. We paid the price for not having them in the starting 11.
Christ, these are supposed to be the best players in the world, and they weren't even there. I mean,
yeah, shameful decisions by club over. But
well, see, Jamie said he was going to pay for the plane back, and I didn't see it on the landing strip. So.
So let's talk about this, Jamie. In terms of, obviously we had problem with that. And this is, I think, where I start to have a problem.
What, not with 10 men?
Yeah, once the game goes to 10 men, 11v10, and knew what Arsenal was
going to do. We're allergic to 10 men.
Yeah, what Scott said, we knew that we're going to sit back, and obviously it becomes a totally different game. They're kind of sitting back and picking their spots when they can, which they did not have a lot. I mean, we had the ball a lot. And I think that's when I started to have a problem with. I know there's a lot of poor performances, but in terms of the coaching and the changes we did and how we reacted, I thought we were just kind of too slow to do anything. And that's when, going back to when we were talking about Milner, that's when I had a problem. I know we're going to finish out the half, but I felt starting the second half, either Curtis or Ox should have been there because, the whole point of having Milner there or having this midfield that, is referred to as the boring midfield. Used to have Genie in there as well. But the whole point is controlling midfield, winning the ball back. Well, there was no ball to win back for Milner for the most part because they were just booting it away, and we had possession. It was at 80% or something at one point.
Yeah.
What do you think of that, Jamie? I mean, I personally felt like we should have made a change at halftime, either introduce Curtis or Ox, maybe one or the other. And obviously they did make a change once they came in terms of how much, I guess they're faster with the ball. Nothing against Milner, but
yeah, I mean, we all know what you're getting at, right? The sub should have been made earlier. Klopp's notorious for not doing it. Halftime was begging for it. We were joking around in our Discord channel. Darren here says midfield was way too slow tonight. They didn't move the ball quick enough. I mean, he's not wrong, lads. So what we were talking about in our Discord channel is at halftime, we were like, who's the subs, and we all concurred. We're like, all right, Curtis Jones needs to come on. Mm-hmm. And I jokingly said, yeah, he'd probably get 10 or 15 minutes. He ended up getting 35 and probably being our man of the match. If we're being honest, he was great. I get why his time's limited because he's just coming back from injury. He's had a horrible season. He got poked in the eye.
I kept him out for months.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
The next day.
You can't play if you can't see. So
some people can, apparently, right?
But
George Best was blind drunk most of the time and was fantastic.
That's right.
So, Scott, let me come to you then. I mean, did you expect a change at halftime? Because, I mean, if you watch, even from the 30th minutes till almost.
That's right.
I mean,
As soon as
until he came out, I felt we had Matip, who I thought was, by the way, the man of the match for us.
I agree.
But he was playing like a number 10. Like we had the whole creative thing in his hands.
There were 2 minutes of stoppage time. There was 2 minutes of stoppage time in the first half, and in those 2 minutes, Arsenal had like 2 or 3 free kicks going towards our goal. Whistle blows, very flat Anfield, and immediately you want something to turn it around in the second half, right? Well, kickoff, no subs come out for the second half. And I don't know if anyone noticed our kickoff routine changed in the second half. We didn't hit it long. We did a pass and went back to kind of business as usual in possession. And it was almost like a continuation. We didn't really find a key to open any doors in the last 10, 15 minutes of the first half. Let's just keep going. But it needed something different. And I feel like when you have a midfield like that, tried and trusted, you keep on going. Like you said, they win the balls back, they get the distribution quick, and they move it up to our front three who can really work with it. But if we don't have those issues of not having the ball, well, we need to switch things up.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Scott.
Jamie, I mean, what do you think should have changed in terms of like what we were doing and how we were doing it? Because I mean, let's face it, we had the ball, but we really were not creating anything.
I mean, lads, if somebody knows the solution, fucking don't email me. Email Klopp today, because like I said, we're allergic to 10 men. Apparently, like we're 2021 levels of lockdown against 10 men. You know what I mean? We just shut up shop.
Did you guys see?
Not in a good way.
We've played against 10 men 6 separate times this season. And that's equated to over about 260 minutes, or a little bit over 260 minutes. We've scored 3 goals, 2 of which were penalties in those 260 minutes.
Scott, you're not filling me with hope right now.
And I think that kind of speaks
I'm the glass half full one here.
How we struggle against like really low blocks. I mean, and that's why I feel like that red card almost help them more than us, because Scott says, Arsenal's weakness is trying to build up, and that's how we would be able to press and win the ball. And we had Jota out there and Bobby and Taki, so we had the pressing unit out there, but really nobody to press once the game became like 11v10. So, and I want to get back to Taki actually, because I know I see online, and I feel bad for him in some ways, because I know he missed that opportunity, but putting the game on that and on Taki because of that, I felt was extremely unfair. So, Scott, let me start with you on this one. What do you make of Taki, not only today, but overall? I feel like now we have seen a lot more. Initially, it was like, well, give him some more time, give him some more minutes and stuff like that. But I feel like we have a good sampling now in terms of what he does. What is your take on Taki?
So I will preface what I say with, I agree with you. He shouldn't get the blame, all of the blame at least. You have, all his teammates out there who are just as responsible in creating chances and finishing chances. But when a chance like that comes, man, it would have been good to put that in the back of the net. And if that falls to one of the big guys, maybe you think that outcome changes. I think that Minamino is, first of all, a very, very sharp player. I think that mentally speaking, he is thinking about what he is supposed to be doing and what he's going to do next. But I think that his first touch lets him down half the time. And that little difference of sharpness compared to Jota or Firmino or Salah or Mane is what makes that gap huge. Because I think that Klopp definitely encourages knowing what to do with the ball before you get it. Making sure you have ideas and have creativity when the ball comes to you. But to be able to execute that every single time, over and over, that's the difference. So you see it in, some senses of the game. He had a great 60, 70-yard run in the middle of the second half. And then at the same time, he'll get a ball played to feet, and it'll be a 4-yard touch. And it's like, why can't he just find that consistency over and over again? It's a little bit frustrating, but you know the talent's there. You've seen it. You just want it more.
How about you, Jamie? Like, having seen what you've seen of him, what is your overall take? And what do you forecast, I guess I should say?
Well, you forecast, right? I mean, he's had ups and downs, like Scott said. You can see everything there. So Scott made a couple of great points there. Like, here's the difference. Taki is thinking probably too much. And this is what's going to happen when you're on the fringes of a team, right? And you're not getting your minutes and you're not in form and you're thinking too much. He needs to stop all that and just do. Like, Bobby, to a certain extent, has that confidence where if he is out of the team, he can just join right back in and start running on that treadmill like it's already at 99. Take is thinking. And I mean, that's part of his role too, because he's trying to play that pass. And Bobby just does. Bobby's a fucking enigma. Let's just excuse that comparison. I mean, Taki's great. I love his work ethic. I love he's a tidy finisher on his day. It's difficult right now. I mean, he's got 90 minutes to redeem himself, basically. Jesus, I mean, if he gets another 90 minutes.
Personally, obviously the guy's a good player, but I am not sure if he fits. I mean, when I say forecast, and that's my thing, I don't know if he'll be able to be that player we need to be in the Premier League. Either physically, I don't think he's strong enough to be able to hold on to the ball. I think he has the work rate, but physically it's different. Like, you look at Bobby or Jota, be able to protect the ball and, create some space, and you really don't get that from Taki. And I don't know if you will. I was hoping maybe down the road we would get more and more of it, but I feel like not. And I think the pace of the game goes back to what Scott is talking about in terms of that first touch. I mean, it's not like, he's not Lukaku, like with a bad first touch, but, still, yes, at the pace of the game, that the touch being perfect is a lot more difficult. Like,
so let's say you talk about first touch. Like, a first touch doesn't necessarily have to be 10 yards away for it to be bad. But what you want from Taki is that first touch to set him up for his next move so that he doesn't have to take the one after, If he's trying to turn, use his first touch when the ball comes in to turn with the ball, as opposed to taking it and then thinking, okay, I'm going to turn. And it's just those small, subtle differences that you see with him comparatively to when Jota gets the ball played to his feet that really make a huge difference overall.
Absolutely. I mean, Taki's training pitch fit. He's not match fit. If Taki played week in, week out for Southampton, let's say, I think his touch would be better. I don't know. I think, how much do we pay for Taki in sterling? Like 7 mil?
I was just thinking that Darren is saying 7. I actually thought it was less. I mean, and I agree. Like James says, going forward, he's definitely not good enough, though. We've known that for a while. I mean, I don't know if we've known it for a while. I think, or maybe, in this sense, maybe we kind of knew deep inside, but we thought, I mean, let's face it, when we're talking about our own players, we're a little more kinder, aren't we? Like the sunglasses are a bit more like rosy.
Right,
whereas if Taki was, let's say, at United,
if Taki was
they signed, or if they were like in Chelsea, I think we would be like, he's not a good player. I think we kind of like treat it differently because obviously we have a connection to him, and he's a likable dude, and his work rates and everything is great. But I agree with Darren, who says, Taki will be gone by the summer. He just doesn't cut it for me. And not like he was a big investment, and I feel like we would still make money on that investment. But moving forward, I'll come to you first with this, Scott. Next season, do you think Taki is in the squad? This time next year on a Thursday night, I'm talking about Taki.
if Michael Edwards was in charge still, we got 15 million from Jordan Ibe, right? So there's no reason you couldn't get that sort of money for Taki. I think that next season, you have to start thinking about this morph, this evolution that this team inevitably needs. You know, you take two players out of Manchester City and they play like Manchester City. You take two players out of Liverpool that just happen to be Salah and Mane, and now you're replacing them with Taki. Does that do it for us fans? Like you said, he's likable, but there comes a point where we just have to be realistic. And the reality is that there is a large gap in his quality compared to what we've become accustomed to with our starting players.
But you will have that gap. I mean, you're not going to have, we're never going to have, and I know that some of the fans have that expectation, but you're not going to have a more money sitting on your bench because they could be somewhere else. I do understand what you're saying. You can try to close that gap in terms of like how much we drop. So I don't know. Did you answer or did you sidestep the question? This time next year on Thursday podcast. Nice try, buddy. That stuff doesn't work for me.
Right. I think that he is a quality player, but not the quality we need. I think that we would be better off trying to create another spot, especially if that's an international spot, for somebody who continues this evolution that we're looking to make.
So this time next year, on Thursday night.
This time next year, I don't think he's a Liverpool player. That's what I'm saying.
How about you, Jamie? Don't dance around it too much like Scott did.
Sorry, I took too long with that.
First team player. He's definitely not going to be a first team player. Whether or not he plays for Liverpool in a year's time, I mean, if we can get 7 million for him, great. But I mean, let's just play devil's advocate here. If Taki's in a level here at 7 million, and we're going to bridge that gap to Mo Salah, which is a couple of steps up here. I need
way
long screen, not wide screen. Who's in that next gap? In that 20 to 30 million pound sterling gap? I mean, look, we could make a whole podcast about transfer signings. We're all here for that. It's January, right? Why not drink ourselves to oblivion? Everybody says dry January is a bad idea. Jesus Christ, Liverpool would drive you to drink tonight.
I think Taki, one thing with Taki is, like I say, the Premier League, I think physically is tough for him. Yeah. And I think he's a player that needs space. So on a team that plays more counter.
How much space? Like in France or
against Liverpool? Like if we were playing against Taki, it would be a pain in our ass on the counter. Because he would find those spots. He's fast. He can do stuff, and he's not. He has a little bit of mind in him, and where he's not like predictable which way he's gonna go and stuff. And he would give us fits. But when the way the teams play against Liverpool is not the way they play against, let's say, Burnley or something like that. So I think he would be successful, maybe not in Premier League, but in any other league where he plays for a team that can counter more. And with his pressing and stuff like that, I just don't see it. So I'll answer, answer my question. So I'm not dancing either. I don't think he's here next year because I feel like we will, and we will make, like I say, I would think when we do sell him, if and when, I guess, I would think we would make money on him just because of how the market is. And now he has Liverpool and Premier League experience, if nothing else. So I know it's a lot of
stealing a living. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like Xhaka stealing a living, like Taki stealing a living. Who is a good fit for him?
In terms of a place for him to go play, like a playing style?
Yeah, get him gone this January.
Frankly, I honestly think when he was at Salzburg, he was being groomed for Leipzig. I think that the German league, just due to the slower nature of the press, I think that he has a tough time with a man coming hard, just pressing him as soon as he gets that touch, because that leaves that margin of error so small for that first touch. If he's able to get the ball in turn, and then now he's the one being able to drive forward, that sounds like a Bundesliga player to me.
And that's what, honestly, like, if he is still in the Premier League, I can see him doing better, getting more opportunities, and getting more space to do his thing. If he played for, I don't know, like Brighton or somebody like that, a team that actually tries to play football. Burnley was a bad example because they don't play football. Don't get me started on Burnley. But a team that tries to play football, I think, and well, he will have space. I think he will do better. But in terms of leagues, yeah, I mean, Dave Leslie says maybe he isn't showing enough hunger for his position. I feel like he is showing that hunger, but there's a certain, I mean,
apparently he's
we can all show hunger too, but there is only so much we can
fantastic on the
do.
training pitch. He's fantastic on the training pitch. He apparently he's amazing.
And I think, you will have to have. Here's the thing. I think some fans have like an expectation where, everybody should be, top quality. You are going to have some players who are semi-happy with their role, like our boy Divock, and they're going to, when given the opportunity, maybe not every time, but more often than not, they're going to take advantage. And knowing the system, they're going to be able to shoe right in. It's kind of a tough position to put Taki into because these are the only times he gets opportunities, but yeah, I know, like I say, overall, some very poor performances throughout. I just saw a lot of Taki talk, so I kind of figured like we would cover that.
And
but
maybe we can end it with the Taki chat with this is, with the boys being over at AFCON, he's about to get a run of games. I mean, Divock's injured. I suspect that he's going to be starting against Brentford.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think he's got 90 minutes to redeem himself. I think he's got 90 minutes to change a lot of people's minds.
See, the only thing if you're changing your mind with 90 minutes, by the way, then but I know what you're saying. Some people will. But I mean, my thing is, I almost feel like it shouldn't. When we finish this game, I never said, man, Taki better come back and play 90 minutes and redeem himself. I was more like, man, we were so poor, and the adjustments we made for so poor. And why did Klopp watch what was happening for so long? I always feel like, and you look online, everybody gets a lot of help from like Trent, which rightfully so, he was extremely poor. Even Van Dijk was not all that today.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout, I don't think obviously the midfield was not all that. It's kind of hard to find good performances, but I find it odd that nobody wants to even touch or approach criticizing Klopp. I mean, he's a great manager, but I mean, there are times where, we talked in the past on the Monday podcast in terms of like his substitution patterns and how it kind of like affects the team. And that's why this team tires a lot as the season moves along. But I feel like sometimes he's too stubborn and it feels like, well, we have the recipe is going to work. The recipe is going to work. The recipe is going to work. Just keep going. So I guess it's not freaking working. And then it almost becomes too late. I mean, going out to that second half, we knew Arsenal was just going to park the bus in their own box, literally, and just go for a draw because this is like the first leg. And that's the thing. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not like, we lost. It was a one leg or anything like that. We have another game to go against Arsenal, so that's our next topic. And this kind of like brings us to one of our first segments because obviously this was not supposed to be the first game. The initial game got canceled with all the COVID stuff and us not being able to have players. Then it kind of comes out that there's some false positives and all that kind of stuff, and kind of media and other fans going crazy. So actually, like, one of our new segments on Thursday is we're going to be featuring the Tampa Bay Cup Talk, who had their own actually great podcast too, and we're going to be featuring like their like opinions, and then let's listen into them for a little bit, and then I want to get your guys' take on this, as well as I really want to get, because while Gally isn't here, we can kind of talk about it and see if we can kind of agree on this whole COVID thing. But let's listen in on the Tampa Bay guys first.
All right. Hello. My name is David. I'm from Tampa Bay Cop Talk. I'm here with Andrew, who's one of my co-hosts of the podcast.
Hi, everyone.
Happy to be on the American Scouser podcast. So, Andrew, I'm just curious, what do you think about all these false positives? Do you believe the conspiracy theories?
Absolutely. It's a conspiracy theory. Jurgen Klopp is a genius. I love it. We didn't have Minamino, Origi, and then obviously the magician, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Obviously, it's genius because, Arteta and those boys, they're the best team in the country, so we have to have our best players on the pitch at all times because we clearly didn't beat them 4-0 the other day. So yeah, no, it's amazing. It's incredible. It just shows like no one gives a fuck about this competition, whether that's the hierarchy at Liverpool or whether that's the EFL. Like they just want to. I don't know. I honestly couldn't care less, but I just love it. I love it. I love the drama.
I just like that. There was people on Twitter saying Klopp's scared to face Arteta, which is like they faked the moon landing level of conspiracy theory. It's pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, no, that's the kind of like not that it's a dad joke, but if it were a dad joke, that's the kind of dad joke that we deserve as a society.
I mean, someone's going to be watching this. Like they did fake the moon landing, okay?
Exactly. I mean, it's completely absurd. As Ox said the other day on that video he did with Jota, it's popping off. And Klopp, Arteta's scared. Arteta, please get out of here.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think they're, okay. So I think it was 14 false positives or something. That's one of the rumors I heard. I don't actually know the official number, but it's a bunch of false positives.
Sure. Yeah.
If there is an argument. Some people have said like, well, they were buying time to get Origi and Minamino back, or like buying time to get just enough players back from injury, which like maybe, I don't know, but I think it's probably more likely like they got a batch of bad tests or something happened that like tainted the results. Because it's not like the club is like swabbing the players and then testing the results themselves. Like Liverpool isn't a lab company. They're not a pharmaceutical company. Like this is definitely going off to some third party testing site. Something must have happened between the two locations where like the results got messed up.
I mean, I'm not those lab workers. I don't know how that works, but just based on math. So let's assume there's, 75 people that they test on a daily basis. You take that 75 times, let's say 3 months, 90 days. Can't do that math off the top of my head because I'm drinking, but the probability of running into false positives, increases every day. However, 14 sounds a lot, but like I said, doing that math, 14 is like, very few percentage, right? Of all those tests combined, right? So I don't think so. Like the math doesn't check out. Like the math doesn't check out to a conspiracy theory. I'm not worried about it. I just think it's lulls because everyone's freaking out and losing their minds, like that meme with the Dark Knight and the Joker, right? I just think it's hilarious. And like I always said, like since Klopp has been around, I haven't cared about the FA Cup or the League Cup since Klopp's been here because he seems to have shown me that he cares less about those. He doesn't care as much about them. So when he does, I will. You know what I mean? And this just kind of feeds into that,
Well, maybe, yeah. For me, I mean, now at this stage, you make a semifinal. Now I want to win the damn thing.
1,000%. We'll talk about that in a bit, but I don't know. This COVID thing, it's difficult. I'm from a fan and from if I were a businessman, I'm frustrated that, the powers that be haven't figured out better solutions to this whole thing. And like, I get at the same time, if I'm sympathetic, I can say like, these are unprecedented times and so on.
I don't know. It would take. They are, but they have been for 2 years.
This is true, but I'm trying to be nice here and say that like give these people a break in a way. But it's just frustrating that this should be handled better.
So that was David Rice. I know it looks like David is a ventriloquist at the same time, but he's not. Andrew was in the background, so hopefully we can have Andrew on camera. Maybe he was drinking so much that he didn't want to get on camera. But
I was about to say, Andrew's laying on the floor right now, so he can't really be on camera.
I mean, if we're talking about conspiracies and Arteta, we need to talk about his hairline for Christ's sake. I mean, that's a bit of a conspiracy.
So I think let's start with you, Scott. I mean, obviously the whole conspiracy theory thing is kind of like out there. I mean, if we're holding out for Divock, that's pretty bad. And I know this is kind of banter, but what do you make of that?
I thought it was unbelievable and completely in color with how everyone looks at Liverpool, right? So people think that it was like, Jamie didn't want to go to work tomorrow, so he puts his thermometer up to his oven, gets a hot temperature, takes a picture of that, sends it to his boss. So
No, there's no need to
Which
do
he
that.
has done
mate.
that.
Somebody's already screenshotted 103 degrees. All you need to do is take a screenshot of that.
exactly. So we took 16 of the exact same picture, sent it to the EFL and said, hey, sorry, the boys, they're
Nah.
sick today.
Yeah.
I don't think they can come in. And people believe this. And people believe that, like David said, Liverpool has a lab back there that they went ahead and did the tests, got them all to say positive, sent it in. I just don't understand. I don't understand how that, but like I said,
if we've got a science lab department, somebody needs to be working on cloning Mane and Salah for us real quick.
somebody needs to get Thiago in there so he can play a game.
Sort that hip problem out for God's
So
sake.
while I have you guys, because this is a topic we've covered on Monday nights, and Gallia and I were definitely not on the same page, and I think I got Bickler on my side for a little bit, but I kind of want to get your guys' take. So Jamie, let's start with you on this one, but how do you see, I guess, the handling of the COVID, certain games postponed, certain games not postponed? And I know initially when we first talked about this, the ground rules were not as clear, and I still don't know if they're as clear because, like Scott says, if anybody can do this, if these theories are even remotely possible, any team that wants to get out of it can get out of it and stuff. But what do you make of it in terms of how the Premier League itself is handling the issue?
I mean, I said it before. I was involved on last Mondays, and you were listening, I believe. But like we talked about the false positives, and I mean, I think the Premier League are handling it just the same way as most governments around the world are handling it, reactionary, right? So I mean, you look at England right now; it's a shambles. They're talking about Boris Johnson having a party at Christmas. Against the laws, the rules, and
Rules.
I mean, yeah, right. So like, I don't know. It's a shambles. It's an absolute shambles. But the Premier League are handling it like a shambles too. But I tell you what else, and Scott kind of touched on it earlier on. I mean, this is a more serious point, but the general public and social media are treating Liverpool like, again, we're up to no good. So they're calling Liverpool, the team, victims, and they're playing the victim card, playing on the Hillsborough shit because it's back in the public eye recently because there's a whole political movement. The Hillsborough Law has been called in, which is for like atrocities, like what happened recently in New York, the fire, the building that went on fire. So when mass people are dead, there's a law that holds the law accountable. Like, how is that even a law? Like, how is that a law?
No, but seriously, law.
It's ridiculous. But in social media, people are still taking the piss. We saw last week in Shrewsbury, the small group of fans that were singing that horrible song about the 97. So the Hillsborough thing is all back in the view, but social media is rife right now with taking pop shots at Liverpool and Liverpool fans and Liverpool as a team that we're trying to, have a fix, or we're always the victim, or we're always playing the victim card. I mean, it's bullshit. I hate it.
The perfect comparison to look at right now is how social media has looked at Leicester when they had their 3 or 4 games canceled, in a row. Everyone's like, "Oh, Leicester has, all these problems, and we need them to get better, right? We want them to get better." So they did. They canceled their games, and hey, if Leicester has COVID cases, if Leicester's out for the count, they need to get better, and then they'll play their games, right? We had the same thing happen to us, and the reaction was just abysmal.
Yeah,
abysmal.
Is that because it's Liverpool? I mean, do you guys think it would be the same, or is it just more like the Leicester City thing that Scott is talking about? Is more like the little poor little guys, and where it happens to one of the bigger teams, they're like, well, they got money, they got a squad, they should go out and play, or is it you think just because it is Liverpool?
From my poor friends that are fans of other teams, they seem to have one thing in common with each other, which is we can't agree with anything. My Chelsea fan friend hates my United fan friend, but at least we all hate Liverpool together. and they can group together and they can go and sit around the fire talking about that. And it's easy. It's easy to get on that ship, it seems like.
I think it's a sign of greatness. I mean, it's usually that's what attracts. You get more hate the better you are, and obviously the more successful you are. But.
Right. I mean, heavy lies the crown. Like in my day, it used to be ABU, anyone but United. I mean, obviously I was a Liverpool fan since a kid, but ABU was literally everybody's, like, it was a boo, a boo, because it was anybody but United, because all they were doing was winning. I mean, the 90s, Jesus, my childhood was torn.
I heard enough from my brother about those during those years.
Right? So, yeah. He grew up with that. How dare he? Entitled little prick.
He's pretty quiet about this whole Premier League thing.
Good.
Even what he does, I've noticed. I'm on him now. When United sucks, he almost like acts like he's not following Premier League as closely.
Right.
That's and stuff like that. But if the score is good, somehow he knows the moment the game ends. So yeah, I'm pretty much
knows the minutes of the goals, knows what type of shoes the striker was wearing, what sort of product was in Ronaldo's hair that day.
Yeah.
So let's move on and kind of like look ahead to the weekend real quick. So for our next segment, we're gonna have Ola, and if you're like a long time listener of the podcast, we had actually Ola for a while. I believe it was like last season, kind of like talking about fantasy football, kind of like teaching guys like me the ropes. But based on my record, he has not done a good job of training me. But I'm learning on the go. Jamie, how are you with fantasy?
I mean,
we talk about it in the Monday podcast, and our main goal with Bickler is beating each other, which he's doing a good job of it recently, I'm going to have to say. And we're just hoping that Kelly Galvin wins the league over
absolutely.
Gally. That's all we care about. I mean, I don't care if I'm 50th,
we're all on that train. That train is a one-way ticket ride, and I'm on it until I fall asleep and the conductor kicks me off because we're on the return journey.
So are you still on the fantasy thing, or did you drop off?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love fantasy. I was good at it. I always used to say I was good at it when Liverpool are bad. This year's proven me probably wrong. But my claim to fame is I came in the top 1,000 in like 2013, 2014, top 1,000 in the world.
Wow.
But I mean, that was a complete fluke, because you can take a screenshot of your finishes year by year. If you've played it for years, you take a screenshot. That is the anomaly. That's the ugly stepchild. Whatever happened to me, I don't know. I must have passed my account to Kelly Galvin.
Maybe that's what it is. Yeah. How about you, Scott?
It is the most frustrating thing that I do in my life, because so you're rooting for players that you shouldn't be rooting for, or you're rooting for results that maybe you don't want to happen, and it tears you apart every weekend.
But you know what? It's the solace. There's a sliver of solace amongst that hatred and tears dripping down your face that City have just won 5-0. But you're like, yes, I fucking captained De Bruyne.
That's right. Yeah. And it's all great when you've like you said, you've captained Salah, he hits his hat trick, Van Dijk's got the clean sheet out back, and you're good to go. But gosh, those transfers. If you guys want to win, just pick up whoever I drop, because they're going to score 2 goals that day.
Yeah.
It never ends. It is always that.
There's definitely a lot to complain about. And now, so Ola is going to be joining us every Thursday, kind of giving us tips for the weekend. This is going to be his first video. The sound is a little quiet, so if you're listening it as a podcast, definitely crank up the volume. But when I'm screaming back again, you might want to lower it back. But some good tips that I even followed here. So let's go with that. He'll be joining us weekly, kind of giving his suggestions of what to do and stuff like that. And then maybe one of them will be whatever Scott does, do the opposites next week. We'll see how that goes. So here is Ola with this week's. Like I say, excuse the volume on this one a little bit, but this is our very first Thursday podcast. So any technical difficulties should go without saying, I think so. Here we go.
Going ahead to game week 22, we have 8 teams playing twice. So we have Brighton, Spurs, Man United, Watford, Brentford, Leicester, Chelsea, and Burnley. The conventional wisdom is if you still have your free hits chip and you have not wasted one of them like I did, if you still have 2 of them, this might be the best time to use them. Well, use one of them, exactly. If you want your wild card and you want to take a longer term approach to planning ahead and getting as many of these players in who are going to play twice, then use your wild card. This might be like the best opportunity to grab a lot of points. For myself, I'm going to be bringing in Watford striker Dennis, who is very, very affordable and is not going away for the Nations Cup in Africa for the AFCON. So Dennis will be playing twice, and the games he'll be playing in are not very tough. So definitely starting Dennis, and I'm giving him my captain band. Looking forward to him banging in a couple of goals in each game. And I'll pick up James Maddison, who has been in good form for Leicester. He's scored a few goals, gotten a few assists. It's not expensive either. I'll be bringing him in, and I'll be hoping Leicester in their 2 games will get enough points and enough goals for me to make that a decision which I won't regret. And I'm definitely sitting on the bench. Ivan Toney, who's, I think he's played like 18 games and scored only 4 goals. 2 of those goals were actually penalties. It's not doing well enough, even though his price is not expensive, but I don't think I'll be putting him in my team anytime soon. He's going straight to the bench, Ivan Toney. And that is your Ola's Fantasy Fix segment for this week. And hopefully we'll be talking next week about triple digits of 100 points and more with this bumper double game week we have. So till then, see ya, and let's make the fantasy a reality. Going ahead to game week 20.
Of course, when he says 3 digits, he's more likely talking about me dropping from the 50s to 100. But that's a different story.
Quick, honest question: how many points did you get last week? Do you know?
I know.
Off the top of your head, man, you guys are really into this. Hell no, I gotta look it up.
Oh,
I got it right here.
It's the bane of my existence. I know all about this stuff. I got 46 points last week.
Oh, Timuchin?
Yeah. Say again?
Hold on, bro. I'm scrolling. 42.
Oh, seriously? I got 63, lads. I feel good.
Okay, this is gonna be. I'm not gonna be hosting these Thursday podcasts if you're just gonna listen to you brag about how many more points.
I had 3 zeros and I got 60. I got 3 zeros and I got 63. So Ola's saying you got to have Dennis in your team, and you got to have Madison in your team. I have both of them. Dennis got 1 point last week.
But I think he's talking because of the AFCON, yes.
Yeah. But he's got 2 games coming up.
Yeah,
and they're pretty desirable matchups, if I remember correctly as well.
And Madison as well. Madison's got a double game week coming up. So that's what he's talking about, triple digits. That's what you get, the double game weeks. That's the killer right there.
So you know what the killer is? The stupid rules that this fantasy league has with these 2 games and free hits. That's what the killer is. But
I love it because
I've lived that pain. I've built a bridge over that pain. I've used that pain to build that bridge.
I am dying on that
now
bridge.
I'm using your pain to build that bridge even further.
I'm just dying on that bridge. Me and Bickler just complaining about it nonstop. So let's talk about the weekend real quick. Do a quick preview into the Brentford game. Let's start with you, Scott. In terms of lineup, what do you expect? Do you expect the same lineup to go out there? If not, what kind of changes are you expecting?
I expect much of the same. The only decision that I can see being made is if we take one of Milner or Henderson. More likely, I believe that Klopp would choose Milner to be taken out of that lineup and put in somebody like Ox or put in somebody like Jones. I would be interested to see if he would be creative and do something that we saw last week against Chelsea when Firmino came in midfield and we had wingers, because we have, for example, Cade Gordon, who may have deserve a possible start in the Premier League, or if that's someone that can bring in later on and dropping Firmino in midfield, it would be good. But I do expect a similar lineup to what we saw today, but I do expect a different result. Fingers crossed.
One thing I know Klopp does, and this is what kind of semi worries me and intrigues me about the weekend, is he will put in guys for like 15, 20 minutes before, they start like the next game. He does that especially a lot with the cup games. And seeing Ox, Curtis coming afterwards, even Gomez and Nico coming in afterwards, kind of like intrigued me as to what he's planning for the weekend. Jamie, what do you expect out of the lineup?
I mean, I'm torn. I feel like we kind of stick with a similar path to what we took today. Midfield is up for discussion, but what was it? Tuesday Brentford played. We were talking earlier before the podcast that they got beat 4-1, wasn't it? So I mean, you take a look at their lineup. It's all right. I mean, I know Ola was just talking about benching Tony for your fantasy league team. I certainly hope so. But I mean, as opposed to our lineup, I mean, we've got Mata back, so I expect the same back five. It's the midfield for me, and yeah, maybe we can do something creative, like Scott's saying, up front, because Jones definitely played well enough tonight. Cade Gordon, I love that idea. I just don't see it happening. I personally, I would. We just, I don't know. It'd be great.
I think you guys are being pretty optimistic.
Our issue is
we like optimism here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm totally on board with that. Like,
that's where I come in. That's where I come in and fight off the optimism. I just don't think. I mean, it's just not the normal club, and I guess that's why more than like the pessimism. Right. I just don't think it's the normal club.
But I do like Scott's idea, though.
Midfielder. What was that?
I like Scott's idea because we're struggling through the middle. With no Thiago, with no Flair in the middle, we're relying on the width, which we do a lot anyway with Robbo and Trent and Salah and Mane. And now we haven't got Salah and Mane. So I feel like we could do something out wide with maybe one or two of the youngsters like Scott was alluding to, but down the middle as well. Like, I mean, it's difficult, but it's easy to say we trust in Klopp, right? But I would like to see. A lot of people say, "Oh, we've only got a plan A. There's no plan B. There's never a plan B." I would like to see some problem solving.
It would be nice. You said there's no plan B. We don't have a plan B. It'd be nice to see one. And sometimes it takes kind of a off-road approach. And if that means, today we saw Jota down the right and Taki down the left and Firmino as that normal high number 9 that he plays when tucking back in the midfield. if he starts in that midfield role and you let Taki go up to the center forward, put Jota on his more preferred wing position in the left side instead of the right, that leaves that right side open for someone like Jones or, Gordon, or we've actually seen Nico there in the past.
That's actually one option I feel like we can see is Nico as a winger. Same issue that, we run into with Taki, though, especially going forward. I don't know, because we let our wingers come in a lot. I mean, if they would be played wide wingers, that'd be one thing, but his strength, I think, worries me when he cuts into the middle. But when he came into the game today, I thought he made a huge change. Partially because Trent was pretty awful overall with his passing and stuff today. So I would not actually be shocked to see him out there, or to be honest, after all this talk, I would not be shocked to see the same 11 out there either. But I'm thinking instead of Milner, we will have Curtis out there, or perhaps Ox. But I think I would prefer Curtis because we're probably expecting a similar game. Even if we were not, after watching today, Brentford is probably like, aha. I mean, not that it's a huge secret on how to play against us and baffle us. You got to have to. I mean, that's the thing. You got to give credit to Arsenal. It's not that easy to just sit back and give anything up. I mean, they did a good job of it, and they did it right. I was really hoping when I saw that lineup that they would struggle with playing too many attacking players. But I was, especially with Lacazette, I did not think he would be able to keep that spot and do what he has to. And I thought he did a good job of, kind of like defending that line and helping defense and stuff. But hopefully we'll get him the next game. And Brentford's, man, it would be nice to get the kind of crowds into the game. I thought the crowd was very poor today. And I know it's like a chicken and egg thing where you got to have something on the field to get the crowd going. But at times I feel like the crowd is going to see that we're struggling and kind of, be the trigger.
Exactly. And I feel the exact opposite. I feel like how many times have we seen a Mo Salah goal where the cop are already chanting, Mo Salah, Mo Salah, Mo Salah. I mean, I hear what you're saying. Don't get me wrong. I'm not just playing devil's advocate to piss you off.
Go for it.
But I feel like, I totally get the chicken and the egg and blah, blah, blah. And you can't have one without the other. Like, it is a complete catch-22. But it's hard to get the Anfield crowd up. It's a semi-final, but it's the League Cup.
And I think, you're right. That's part of
the listen, I take the piss out of Paul Bickler all the time about messing with the FA Cup, and the purists will be after him. So I get the romanticism around the League Cup and the domestic cups, but the crowd was up for it for 5-10 minutes. Like there was some Tory chants going towards Arsenal. There was some great back and forth, and then there was the Arsenal fans were taunting us. Like I heard it all, but the fans have been flat recently, and whether that echoes what's going on the pitch or not, the two definitely go hand in hand. I don't know which one's more important, but we all know the importance of an Anfield crowd.
And you said, as the caveat at the end, Jamie, but it's the League Cup. That's not just the fans' thought. For 5 years, that's been Jurgen Klopp's thought, but it's the League Cup. And I'm sure that resonates even subtly with the players. It's a Thursday night, and you got a great starting 11 coming out there, but it's the League Cup.
What I will say, though, is we all keep forgetting when Liverpool play poorly or when Liverpool draw or when Liverpool don't win, we all forget that there's another 11 men out there.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The whole point of playing at Anfield is having 12 men, if you will, as the saying goes. And I thought... And I understand what you guys are, and I think you're right, Scott. You mentioned it too, Jamie, the fact that it is the League Cup. But then we can bitch about not having trophies and stuff. Can't have it both ways. I really felt like if you can hear, all game, I heard Arsenal fans a lot more than Liverpool fans. And my thing is, yes, we play like crap, but it's not like Arsenal was dominating the game. It's one thing that
No,
you're
we were-
being poor and you're being dominated. We're constantly like, kicking the ball away, playing, trying to save our lives or anything like that. It's the complete opposite. We're pressuring, and that's when you need the crowd to pressure more, attacking that end of all things. And I felt like, how we always talk about how the cup kind of like sucks the ball, and at times it was like a wall. There was no sucking going on today.
And they started at the 88th minute.
Yes.
They started singing, and boy, did it help.
And that's the thing. I felt like, if that was happening the entire second half, and I realized the play on the field was poor, and that kind of like, obviously it's kind of hard to get it going, but that's why you're at the freaking game. I'm watching in front of the laptop today, semi like, ugh. But, if I was at the game, it would be a different story, because that's,
Right.
what you got to.
But it would also be a different story if it was a Wednesday night, not a Thursday night.
Yeah, that's true. No, I definitely understand that part of it. So how about what is this, a Sunday night, the game? How about the Sunday night game against Brentford? Let's get some score predictions before we wrap it up. Jamie, let's start with you, because I don't know.
Well,
if
I was very bullish on Monday. I was all for the 4-0 against Arsenal.
Yes, you were. I blame you.
Yeah. But I believe I said I'll take a sneaky 1-0 against Brentford, and I'll definitely take a sneaky 1-0. I'll take a 1-0 right now today. Sign me the dotted line right now. If it's a 1-goal margin, a 2-1, a 3-1, or sorry, a 3-2, something interesting, that's brilliant. But a 1-0, I'll sign on the dotted line right now.
3-2 is not brilliant for anybody, especially my heart. But Scott,
right.
what do you have for a score prediction?
First and foremost, I do think that clean sheet's entirely attainable. I think that's something that, just based on Brentford's current form and the fact that our defense and our goalie, we actually have an organized, structured team again. I think that that's something that we can expect. I do think that there will be a positive bounce back from today's game. I'm going to go with 2-0.
I'm going with 3-1 because I'm not as optimistic about the defense, especially on the counter. I just feel like we might let one in, but I'm hoping for like a 3-1 win, kind of to get our game back. And then obviously we'll talk about on Monday's podcast, we'll talk about the fixtures coming up after that. Obviously, eventually the boys will be back, but then we're going to play Arsenal again, obviously, on Thursday. And I think that's going to be a more interesting lineup to see, especially with the game coming again on Sunday right afterwards. But one game at a time, as they say. So let's hope we get the win against Brentford. And on Monday's podcast, we'll kind of recap that game and look ahead to the second leg. And then, gentlemen, hopefully next time we meet next Thursday, we'll be talking about a better game against Arsenal and a win. Thank you to all listening, chiming in, commenting. Definitely thanks a lot to the Tampa Bay guys, as well as Ola. We'll be having more of them, and there will be a couple more new segments coming up on Thursdays as well. Once again, do all those things that I forget to ask about, sharing, liking, and stuff like that. That's one thing I definitely suck at. I should probably mention it more, but do that for us. Help us out, and we definitely appreciate everybody chiming in, commenting. See you guys next week.
Thank you. See ya.
But Reds.